Friends, let's start with a surprising fact. By the time a man reaches 60, about half of all men in America will experience an enlarged prostate. That can mean restless nights, frequent trips to the restroom, and a persistent feeling of incomplete emptying. But here's something you might not know. One of the simplest solutions may already be in your kitchen. Vinegar, the same kind you might use on your salads, has been quietly helping men for many years, and research is now confirming what those old traditions always suggested. I'm Dr. Anya Sharma. I'm a urologist and men's health specialist with over 30 years of experience treating prostate issues and guiding men toward natural approaches that restore well-being, self-assurance, and vitality. I've personally witnessed the frustration, the embarrassment, and the loss of self-respect that prostate problems can cause. And I've also seen the relief when men discover safe, effective habits that truly make a difference. Here's something that might surprise you. While many men depend on medications that can cause side effects like dizziness, tiredness, or even sexual difficulties, vinegar offers a natural alternative. It can reduce inflammation, keep blood sugar levels steady, encourage a healthy weight, and help create an environment for a calmer, smaller prostate. Why is such a straightforward solution so rarely discussed? Please stay with me, because I'm going to show you the right way to use vinegar, how much you'll need, and the kinds of positive changes you can look forward to. This isn't about some kind of miracle. It's about science, tradition, and real results. And in just a moment, I'll share the specific routine that men over 60 can follow to naturally reduce their prostate size and get back their nights, their comfort, and their sense of confidence. Before we get started, if you haven't already, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications. That way, you won't miss any of my future advice on prostate health and overall men's wellness. And if this topic resonates with you, please let me know in the comments by typing 1. If you feel it doesn't, type 0, so I can continue to improve and bring you the guidance you truly need. Now, let's start with the first and most crucial question. Why do prostate problems become so widespread after the age of 60? To truly understand how vinegar can be helpful, we need to first understand what actually causes the prostate to enlarge and disrupt your daily comfort and your sleep at night. 1. Why prostate problems happen after 60? As men enter their 60s, something starts to happen quietly inside their bodies. The prostate, a gland that used to be about the size of a walnut, slowly begins to grow. At first, you might not even notice it. Maybe you wake up once during the night to go to the bathroom and don't think much of it. But then, before you realize it, you're getting up 2, 3, even 5 times every night. The constant trips to the restroom leave you feeling exhausted, depleted, and frustrated. I have sat with so many men in my office. Men who once felt strong and invincible, now telling me they feel like they're chained to the bathroom and robbed of their self-respect. And every time, I see the same look in their eyes, the disbelief that something so small could cause so much trouble. This happens because as we get older, our hormones change, blood flow shifts, and inflammation builds up inside the body. These factors cause the prostate to swell, a condition called benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH. It's not cancer, but it feels like a thief. It steals your sleep, your energy, and your sense of confidence. Many of my patients tell me that the hardest part isn't just the inconvenience. It's the feeling that they're losing control of their own bodies. Imagine planning your day around restroom breaks or avoiding long car rides because you're afraid you won't make it in time. These aren't just medical issues. They're life issues, and they weigh heavily on a man's spirit. But here's what gives me hope and what I want you to really hear. An enlarged prostate is not an unavoidable destiny. There are ways to soothe the swelling, reduce the pressure, and regain control. And what makes this story so remarkable is that one of the most promising helpers isn't found in a prescription bottle, but in something as simple and familiar as vinegar. How could this humble kitchen staple possibly play a role in shrinking the prostate and restoring comfort? The answer lies in science, and it might just surprise you. 2. The science of vinegar and your prostate. When I first started researching natural remedies, I was doubtful about vinegar. After all, how could something so ordinary, something most of us use on salads or for cooking, possibly have an effect on prostate health? But as I explored the research more deeply and listened to the experiences of men who had been using it for years, I realized there was something worth paying attention to. Vinegar, especially apple cider vinegar with what we call the mother, is more than just a kitchen ingredient. It's packed with compounds that quietly work in the background to address the very issues that cause the prostate to grow. At the heart of vinegar's power is acetic acid, along with a variety of polyphenol and natural enzymes. These compounds reduce the chronic inflammation that slowly irritates and enlarges the prostate. I've had patients tell me that before vinegar, they felt like there was a fire burning inside their lower abdomen, an invisible irritation they couldn't get rid of. Once they started taking a small daily dose of vinegar, they noticed that the urgency and discomfort started to subside. This isn't magic, it's biology. Inflammation is one of the biggest factors in prostate swelling, and vinegar helps to reduce that inflammation. Another way vinegar helps is by stabilizing blood sugar. You might not realize it, but high blood sugar and insulin resistance can make prostate problems worse. When your sugar levels are constantly spiking, the body responds by producing more growth signals, and unfortunately, the prostate is one of the targets. Vinegar slows down the digestion of starches, keeping sugar spikes under control and hormones in better balance. In addition to that, it supports weight management, which is crucial because belly fat produces estrogen-like substances that encourage prostate growth. By helping men lose a few pounds around the waist, vinegar indirectly reduces the pressure on the gland. The more I learned about the science, the more I respected this humble liquid. Still, I know what many of you are thinking. If vinegar has so much potential, why didn't our doctors tell us sooner? The answer may lie in old traditions and the surprising wisdom that men from earlier generations quietly passed down. 3. The wisdom of older generations. Whenever I talk with older men, especially those who grew up in rural communities or in families that still held on to traditional practices, I often hear the same story. They'll tell me that their fathers or grandfathers used to take a spoonful of vinegar before meals, believing it kept their digestion running smoothly and their bodies cleansed. Back then, no one had medical journals or clinical trials to explain why. It was simply passed down as common sense. What struck me most is how many of these men, now well into their 70s and 80s, report fewer prostate problems compared to their peers. They never thought of it as medicine, just a daily habit that became as natural as brushing their teeth. I remember one patient, a retired farmer in his late 70s, who shared his father's ritual with me. Every morning before breakfast, his father would mix a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar into a glass of water, sip it slowly, and then start his day in the fields. Decades later, my patient found himself doing the same. Not because he fully believed in it at first, but because it was part of his family's rhythm. To his surprise, while his friends were complaining about restless nights and bathroom runs, he was sleeping more soundly and rarely felt the same urgency they did. His story isn't unique. Across cultures from the Mediterranean to Asia, vinegar has been used as a tonic for health and longevity. And now, modern science is finally catching up to explain why. There's something deeply reassuring in this. It reminds us that not every solution needs to come from a prescription or a laboratory. Sometimes the quiet wisdom of generations carries truths that only later get proven in research. And while tradition gave us the practice, science now explains the mechanism, bridging the gap between old and new. But tradition alone won't help unless you know how to apply it safely and correctly in today's world. That's why the next step is so important. Understanding exactly how to use vinegar in a way that supports your prostate without causing harm. 4. How to use vinegar safely. Now that we've looked at the science and even the wisdom passed down from generations before us, the natural question is how to actually use vinegar in a way that is both effective and safe. This is where many men make mistakes because while vinegar is powerful, it must be handled with care. I've seen patients who thought they could drink it straight from the bottle only to end up with stomach pain, irritated throats, or even damage to their teeth. That is not what we want. The key is moderation, consistency, and respect for the strength of this simple liquid. The best choice is organic apple cider vinegar with the mother. That cloudy substance you see at the bottom of the bottle is rich in enzymes and probiotics, and it carries the real benefits. To start, I always recommend beginning with a small amount. 1 to 2 teaspoons mixed into a full glass of water is more than enough for most men. Take it before your largest meal of the day, not on an empty stomach. When you dilute it properly, it's gentle on your system, but still strong enough to do its work inside your body. Over time, as your body adjusts, you may increase the amount to a tablespoon if tolerated well. But remember, more is not always better. Some men prefer to add a touch of raw honey or a squeeze of lemon to improve the taste. I've even had patients tell me it became a ritual they looked forward to, almost like a tonic that marked the transition into their mealtime. The secret isn't in taking a massive dose, but in showing up every day, letting the vinegar work gradually. Just as your prostate didn't enlarge overnight, the improvements won't happen in a day. But with steady use, the results can be meaningful. Still, prostate health isn't only about what you drink. It ties into deeper aspects of your daily life, your dignity, and even your relationships. And that's why it's important that we now talk about the emotional side of prostate health, because this journey affects far more than just your bladder. 5. The emotional side of prostate health. When we talk about the prostate, most people think only of the physical symptoms, frequent urination, weak flow, or the frustration of waking up throughout the night. But what often gets overlooked is the emotional weight this condition carries. Over the years, I've listened to men describe how prostate problems slowly chip away at their confidence. They tell me it's not just about finding the nearest bathroom. It's about feeling less in control of their own lives. One man in his early 70s once sat in my office with tears in his eyes, admitting that he avoided visiting his grandchildren because he was embarrassed about constantly needing to excuse himself to use the restroom. That is the silent toll an enlarged prostate takes, robbing men not only of sleep but of simple joys and human connection. There's also the quiet strain it places on relationships. Some men tell me they no longer feel the same closeness with their partners, not only because of the fatigue, but because they feel embarrassed or inadequate. Imagine lying awake at night, exhausted from repeated bathroom trips, and then trying to muster energy and intimacy the next day. It can create distance, frustration, and even loneliness. And yet, most men suffer in silence, believing this is just part of getting older. I want you to hear me clearly. It doesn't have to be that way. Your health, your dignity, and your confidence are worth fighting for. The reason I emphasize this emotional side is because motivation isn't built only on facts. It's built on hope and the desire to reclaim what truly matters in life. Prostate health is about restoring not just physical comfort, but also a sense of independence and self-respect. And while vinegar is one tool that can help, it works best alongside lifestyle choices that strengthen your entire body. In fact, some of the most powerful changes you can make require no pills at all, only simple daily habits that support your prostate in ways most men never realize. 6. Beyond vinegar, lifestyle habits that help. While vinegar can play an important role in supporting your prostate, it's not the whole picture. Your prostate health is shaped by the daily choices you make. And I've seen men transform their lives when they combine simple nutrition habits with consistent movement and mindful living. One of the first things I encourage my patients to do is stay active. You don't need to run marathons or lift heavy weights to see benefits. Even a 20-minute walk around your neighborhood can improve circulation, reduce inflammation, and support the health of your prostate. I recall one gentleman who told me his nightly walks not only helped his bladder feel calmer, but also gave him time to clear his mind and reconnect with his wife. Small steps like that add up in powerful ways. Diet is equally important. Men who focus on whole foods, plenty of vegetables, berries, nuts, and fish, often notice a real difference in their energy and urinary comfort. On the other hand, processed foods, excess sugar, and heavy red meat can worsen inflammation and fuel the very growth we are trying to calm. Hydration plays a role, too. Drinking enough water may sound simple, but flushing toxins and keeping the bladder clear makes a meaningful difference. I've seen men who thought they needed to cut back on water to avoid frequent trips to the bathroom, only to find that dehydration actually made things worse. Balance is key. Alcohol and caffeine are also worth considering. A glass of wine or a morning cup of coffee may be fine, but too much can irritate the bladder and intensify urgency. Moderation makes all the difference. What I want you to see is that vinegar is most effective when it's part of this bigger picture, a supportive lifestyle that keeps your body strong and resilient. But as you make these changes and add vinegar into your daily routine, the natural question becomes, what results can you actually expect, and how will you know it's working? That's what we'll explore next, and the answer might surprise you. 7. What to expect and when to seek help. One of the most common questions I hear from men is, if I start this, when will I notice a difference? It's an honest question, because when you've been struggling for years with poor sleep, urgency, and the stress of an enlarged prostate, you want to know there's light at the end of the tunnel. The truth is, results with vinegar and lifestyle changes are gradual, not instant, but they are real. Many men begin to notice small shifts within the first 2 or 3 weeks. They tell me their digestion feels smoother, they feel lighter after meals, and sometimes they notice they are waking up 1 less time during the night. It may not sound dramatic, but for a man who has been waking 5 times a night, even 1 less trip is a gift. After a month or 2 of consistency, the improvements often grow clearer. Some men report stronger urinary flow, less urgency, and the ability to enjoy a full night's rest for the first time in years. Their partners notice the difference, too, not just in fewer bathroom trips, but in their renewed energy and brighter mood. Over the course of several months, the benefits tend to build. Better sleep leads to more vitality. Less inflammation leads to more comfort. And for many men, a sense of confidence begins to return. But I must also stress this. Vinegar and healthy habits are supportive tools, not replacements for medical care. If you ever notice blood in your urine, severe pain, or an inability to urinate, those are signs you must see a doctor right away. I've always told my patients, being proactive is not weakness, it's wisdom. So, while vinegar can be a powerful ally, your journey doesn't end here. In fact, what matters just as much as the steps you take today is how you carry this momentum forward. And that brings us to the final and perhaps most important message, one that ties together everything we've discussed and shows you how to reclaim not just your prostate health but your quality of life. Conclusion. As we come to the end of this discussion, I want you to pause and think about what we've discovered together. We started by looking at why prostate problems so often appear after 60 and how they quietly steal sleep, confidence, and peace of mind. We explored the science behind vinegar, a simple and humble remedy hiding in plain sight, and discovered how its compounds reduce inflammation, balance blood sugar, and support weight management. We revisited the wisdom of older generations who used vinegar long before science confirmed its benefits. And we learned how to use it safely in our daily lives. But beyond the science and the tradition, we touched on something deeper, the emotional side of prostate health, the part that weighs on your dignity, your relationships, and your sense of independence. We saw that lifestyle choices, walking, eating clean, staying hydrated, moderating alcohol and caffeine, can amplify the benefits of vinegar and strengthen the body as a whole. And finally, we talked about what results to expect and the importance of seeking help when needed. Friends, I share this with you not just as a doctor, but as someone who has supported many men facing the same challenges. You are not powerless, and your future is not predetermined. With simple steps, consistent habits, and the right mindset, you can reclaim your nights, your energy, and your sense of confidence.